Today on the Big 6 in 60, the Pacers make a trade on deadline day.
The Pacers add in a second rounder to get it done, and Kobe Brown is also coming and a part of this. So many layers to peel back.
Myles Garrett wins his second Defensive Player of the Year award at the NFL Honors.
Only the second time in NFL history that it's been unanimously voted to one person.
And the Lakers win, but Luka leaves with injury.
The Lakers just stayed persistent before Luka got hurt, and especially after Luka got hurt.
This is the Big 6 in 60, the 6 biggest national sports stories from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now. Thank you for making the Big 6 in 60 your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Pacers made a trade Thursday for Ivica Zubac and sent the Clippers a pair of first-round picks in the process. Tony East tells us why Indiana made the move on Locked On Pacers.
What a doozy of a trade, getting slight little leaks along the way through reporting up to the trade season. Jake Fisher talking about it last night along the way, connection via Michael Scotto, that the Clippers and Pacers might have a connection here. I predicted on the pre-deadline show, if you listened, that the Pacers' exact requirements for a trade like this would be Ben Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and 2 first-round picks, and I was very close to being right. The Pacers add in a second-rounder to get it done, and Kobe Brown is also coming and a part of this. So many layers to peel back. We'll do a quick high-level reaction overview right now, and then I'll go into more detail later tonight and publish it tomorrow morning. But let's do the full package first. And what I think this signals before we talk about the specifics of the players. Ivica Zubac and his spectacular contract, given his production, is coming to the Pacers. 3 years, $58.6 million. He's extension eligible in early September. Is coming to the Pacers. Kobe Brown, a young player who has not panned out, but the last pick of the first round in 2023. He is coming to the Pacers, and the Pacers are sending to the Clippers Bennedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, their first-round pick unprotected in 2029, a 2028 second-round pick, and get a notebook down, write this down because I'm not going to repeat it, but it's very complicated. Their first-round pick this year, 2026, but it's protected 1 through 4 and 10 through 30. I want to go into a ton of detail on that tonight, but I don't want to get into that super much right now. A lot of game theory involved in that. The Clippers get it if it's 5 through 9. The Pacers get it otherwise, and if the Pacers get it this year, then a 2031 unprotected first-round pick will go to the LA Clippers. Wow, level stuff. So first of all, what does this mean? This is a 100% commitment from the Pacers to their current competitive timeline. They could have waited till the summer. Is Ivica Zubac going to be available in the summer? Or is another team going to trade for him now? I'll tell you guys that I heard of another team that did have interest in him leading up to the trade deadline like today, yesterday, whenever you're listening to this, right? If that is the case, that he could be gone to a different team today. He could be gone to that team in the offseason when contracts change and things of that nature. If you know right now as the Pacers that a value you like, and the value I predicted, by the way, was Mathurin, Jackson, and 2 firsts, so I was very close. If you know that player is available right now and you can get them, all you have to do is say yes. Then you should do it if you believe that player is going to keep you in contention or make you a contender for the rest of this current era of whatever that is. And it's very easy to point to what that era's timeline is. Ivica Zubac is under contract for the rest of this season. The value of that deal this year, not that important, but the fact that it's only $18.8 million or $18.9 million made this possible with just Jackson and Mathurin's contracts. Then next year, he's at $20.3 million, then $21.8 that following year. So fits well into their salary cap structure, which is, of course, important for this exercise. If you subtract out that Isaiah Jackson's contract is the exact same length, they're basically paying less $13 million a year for him by getting rid of Jackson's contract in this move. But also the length is important. All of these players' contracts end after 2028. Ivica Zubac, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, Obi Toppin, and Aaron Nesmith. And potentially TJ McConnell as a team option following that season, right? It seems very clear what sort of timeline the Pacers have with this current core. And they could extend it beyond that. All those players, or most of them, are extension eligible pretty soon, basically outside of Nesmith. Halliburton runs through 2028, 29. But very clearly the Pacers who made the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago and the finals last year, view what they have right now as a window to win something of significance, whether that's a championship, whether that's mini playoff series, whatever. And I keep citing this stat in conversations with people, but very rarely actually say it on this podcast. And I think this is something that you have to believe in if you're the Pacers. They have never, with Tyrese Haliburton on the roster, they have never lost a series if he finishes the series healthy. He got hurt against the Celtics and they got swept. Who knows, that they might have lost that series anyway. The Celtics were awesome. They lost a game that he played that series, obviously. They lost games he played against the Thunder, but he got hurt in game 7 of that series. Every other series, if he finished it healthy and he played in every game of the series, they won. They won the series, right? Tyrese Haliburton is potentially that level of talent. Now, obviously, he tore his Achilles. The team is going to potentially look different as a result of that next year. His true level is now the biggest question mark of this era. But if they believe in him, and Pascal Siakam is still, as named by the league, a star-level player. And you have Nembhard and Nesmith and Toppin and McConnell on that team and in that core. They know that they can win something. Isaiah Jackson missed one of those playoff runs. Benedict Mathurin missed the other. They were obviously both crucial in the opposite one, but they know that this group that they have is competitive enough to win something good. But they were missing a center. Jay Huff had been fine in some games, but not all of them. Micah Potter has been fine in some games, but not all of them. Isaiah Jackson is now gone. He was fine in some games, and not all of them. They are all fine NBA players. They are also all clearly reserves to me. And I think the Pacers knew that, and this season had proved that. They needed somebody better at the position. They also needed somebody who fits into their salary structure so they can continue to build out their team. And I'll get into more of the salary cap dynamics of this tonight. I'll get into more of the pick protection dynamics of this tonight. But Zubac is very good and makes very little for his production. People laugh at his speed and his lack of shooting. Those are real things about him. He's not the fastest player. He doesn't even take threes. He hasn't taken one since 2022-23. He also averages double-digit rebounds a night and has for the last 2 seasons, and averaged 17 points a game last year, 14.4 this year. Oh, by the way, last year, he finished 6th in Defensive Player of the Year voting and was on second team all defense. He is that level of defender. Last year, when the Clippers were good, with the Zubac on the floor, their net rating was plus 9.4. With him off the floor, it was minus 4.3. That's a 13-point swing for Zubac. That's bigger than Siakam's this year, right now. He had that level of impact on a good Clippers team last year. Granted, the Clippers have not been as good this year, and he has not been able to lift that group as much, but he has history, including his peak, obviously, last year, of being an incredibly good player, and that's a big part of this. And for the Pacers specifically in their current arrangement of pursuing certain kinds of centers on an incredibly affordable and manageable contract. That's awesome. That's exactly what they should want. That's why his name and Okongwu's kept coming up as like possibly the best targets for the Pacers in the cycle. They're really good, they're affordable, and potentially obtainable with assets the Pacers were willing to move on from. Now, that is obviously the other part of this that we'll get to in a second. They gave up real stuff. 2 rotation players, 3 picks. That's not nothing. But they get a player who is close to a dream fit or a dreamy fit, both financially and on the floor. Perfect timing in that the Pacers were ending practice as we showed up today to the facilities, and Rick Carlisle got to talk about the trade to us, saying about Zubac's level of physicality around the rim is really one of the most prominent physical centers in the league. His physicality and skill and rebounding and offensive rebounding. Those are the things he believes that Zubac will bring to the Pacers. He said, we obviously feel the fit is good with Tyrese and Pascal, and our other veteran guys know that too. And then he later called him a top 10 center in the league, right? That is obviously high praise from Carlisle. So Zubac, very good. One of the guys that's been brought up many times, we talked about this. The price will be the point of contention for a lot of people, which I will get to in the second segment. The other thing the Pacers acquire in this, people have been asking me about him. I have very little opinion of Kobe Brown. He does not play all that much for the Clippers. He's never started a game. He's appeared in 118 games total, never averaged 10 minutes a game. This year for a at one time bad Clippers team, he's still playing under 10 minutes a game. They declined his 4th-year option. That doesn't mean it's over for him. That happened with Jalen Smith. He got traded to the Pacers and became good, but he's averaging 3 points and 1.5 rebounds per game this season, shooting under 40% from the field. But a fresh start in this situation might be decent for him. It's a development opportunity for him. I don't know what to make of his value yet. I don't really want to. I don't know that he actually pushes the needle hardly at all in this trade, but the Pacers stand under the tax and could take him in. Why not? They're sending away 2 players. The Clippers needed to send out 2 players. There we go. So he is also a part of this. Who knows what his long-term outlook could be with the Pacers. They have 31 games or however many he plays to actually figure it out. But that is their return at the trade deadline.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. Myles Garrett dominated in breaking the sack record this season and won his second Defensive Player of the Year award last night. Locked On Browns host Spencer Herman says the latest accolade assures Garrett's spot in the Hall of Fame.
Myles Garrett on Thursday night took home his second Defensive Player of the Year award. Won it in 2023, wins it this year. It was unanimous, only the second time in NFL history that it's been unanimously voted to one person. The first time that happened was with J.J. Watt in 2014, and he becomes the second person now to ever have it be a unanimous decision. He joked about that during his acceptance speech, and no surprise, right? This was they started the entire show off with Defensive Player of the Year, and I can't remember if they've done that before, but it felt like it was intentional because they knew that there was no doubt about who the winner of that award was going to be. Everybody knew it was going to be Myles Garrett. When you break the single-season sack record, when you have the season that Myles Garrett had, the 33 tackles for loss, the 23 sacks, which sets the record, I mean, it was obvious, clear as day, that he was going to win that award. We've been talking about it for a while, and so he gets his second Defensive Player of the Year of his career. Does it in a season that obviously he wishes there was better results, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he was phenomenal this year, still playing at a high level as he finally turned into his age 30. He'll be 30. He just turned 30 in December, so his age 30 season is coming. As that sort of weird tipping point for NFL players hits, he's still showing that he's playing at such a high level. He was on it's been a week for Myles Garrett. He was on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon on Wednesday as well. So he's just been making the rounds. He's been making all the stops. He's been the star of the show, if you will, the darling of the week when it comes to the NFL. That's not really true because there's a lot of different things going on with the NFL right now in Radio Row, but you get the idea here. My main point, though, that I want to make in all this is that as a two-time Defensive Player of the Year winner, Myles Garrett is a lock for the Hall of Fame. There's just no disputing it. Like, if he never wins a Super Bowl, he's going to the Hall of Fame, guys. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind that he will be in the Hall of Fame. And he was already heading that direction anyway, so I don't think that this is like some groundbreaking take necessarily. But, when we get into these conversations about what makes a Hall of Famer, who deserves it, who doesn't, oftentimes people like to look big picture, as they should. I get that. And championships is part of that. I don't know if he'll ever win a championship with the Browns. Right now, he's under contract with the Browns till the end of his career, theoretically. And we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But, whether or not he wins a title or not, he is guaranteed to be a Hall of Famer with two Defensive Player of the Year awards on his resume and everything else that he's accomplished along the way, by the way, because he's the sack king. Add that to the list. But it's also what he's done to get to this point. Like, on the way to the sack record this year, he became he had the most sacks under the age of 30. He set that record, which was, I believe, Reggie White had it originally at 108. He's shattered it. 124.5 is what he was at before he turned 30, which was, again, late December. So, it's been every step of the way with Myles. Just the things that he's done has just been unheard of. And he became now the 9th player all time to win multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards. This is a very illustrious list of players. All of them except 3 are current Hall of Famers, by the way. Lawrence Taylor, J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, Joe Green, Mike Singletary, Bruce Smith, Reggie White, Ray Lewis, and now Myles Garrett. Of that group, 3 guys have won it 3 times, Lawrence Taylor, J.J. Watt, and Aaron Donald. 2 of those 3 aren't in the Hall of Fame yet, but that's because of when they retired. J.J. retired in 2002. He'll be on the ballot in 2008. Aaron Donald retired in 2024. He'll be on the ballot in 2030, 2029, 2030. I think it's 2030. And then the rest of that group that I rattled off all won it twice, including Myles, obviously. So Joe Green, Mike Singletary, Bruce Smith, Reggie White, Ray Lewis, he joins that group. And all those guys are Hall of Famers, except for the 2 I mentioned that have also won it 3 times, in J.J. Watt and Aaron Donald. The only other person to win it 3 times was Lawrence Taylor. Like, this puts you in a category, in a stratosphere, all on your own, which Myles already was that, just because of his physique and who he is as a player and how incredible he is. He is called by his own peers the best player in football, the best player, at least on the defensive side of the football, the best non-quarterback in football, however you want to label it. That is what he's called. And so, listen, I know Browns fans certainly hope he wins a championship at some point during his tenure, and you'd love to see him kind of go out with a ring on his finger, especially for how much he talks about wanting to do that and wanting to accomplish that and how much it matters to him. That'd be awesome if he pulls it off at some point. But if he doesn't, it is without question Myles Garrett's going to the Hall of Fame. You get 2 of these things, you win 2 Defensive Player of the Years. Like, there were still conversations, I think, that I had with people in the last year where it was like, is Myles a for sure Hall of Famer? And this was before he set the sack record, obviously. And I even felt back then that it was probably going to happen because I was assuming more production in the years ahead of his career. He certainly isn't done. He's not done telling his story. But then you add another Defensive Player of the Year to it. Then you add the sack record to it. Like, again, if he retires tomorrow, if he wakes up and just decides, he's probably on his way to Milan to hang out with Chloe Kim, his girlfriend. If he wakes up tomorrow and decides, you know what, football ain't for me anymore, I'm going to retire, he'd be in the Hall of Fame without question. And I've talked about it before, but like, if you want to tell me Jim Brown is still the greatest Browns player of all time, I won't fight you on it. I won't fight you on it. You watch those highlights. Obviously, I wasn't alive for Jim Brown, but you hear the stories. He's something of folklore, and you see the highlight tapes. You go back and watch it. It's obvious how incredible of a player that Jim Brown was, and he also had such a major impact on the NFL community, our country at that time. There was so much that goes into the Jim Brown story. So I'm not going to fight you if you say that Jim Brown's still the best Browns player of all time. But Myles Garrett, man, he is easily one of the most dominant players in NFL history, one of the most freak athletes to ever play this sport. Like, he's up there. He's up there in the same stratosphere as Jim Brown in terms of, like, across the NFL, greatest players, athletes, whatever you want to say, to ever play this game. He's in that stratosphere. That's how good he is. And now he's got 2 Defensive Player of the Years after winning it on Thursday night for the second time. Give him his gold. Get the gold jacket ready. He's going to have one when it's all said and done. There's no more disputing it. He's a bona fide Hall of Famer, whether he wins a ring or not before it's all said and done.
The Bucks entertained offers for Giannis Antetokounmpo all week, but didn't like any of them enough to let the 2-time MVP go. Camille Davis and Justin Garcia look at what's next for Milwaukee on Locked On Bucks.
It is not the last call for Giannis in Milwaukee. Camille, we're not surprised. I can't say with 100% certainty there's no way he was going to be traded, but come on. Not surprised. The Bucks have long maintained we are not actively looking to trade Giannis. Like any divorce, in any dissolution of the marriage, it's going to require one party to say, I'm good. We got to move on here. And Giannis is yet to do that. The Bucks, quite frankly, I do feel confident enough to speak for the people I know and say the Bucks are never going to do that. So I don't want to continue to drag the national guys through the mud. If you want to do that, that's fine. We see a lot of it in the comments. There's always a morsel of truth to everything. So we do need to keep that in mind. But I mean, it is very tiresome to see the constant, like, well, what about this? And now the immediate pivot when the reports come out of Bucks are not going to trade Giannis. Okay, that just means the summer, even though I'm the same one that told you, well, the offers aren't going to be that great over the summer, so you better do it now. Okay, well, in the summer, actually, they can get better offers. And just how we've continued to move down the line, that has been the tiresome thing in all of this to me.
It has been. It has been. And the fact that it's been like 8 years of this, which is part of why some of the reports initially when they came out about, oh, this is the first time the Bucks trade, like we've had trade rumors for 8 years. The difference in this year, and I believe Eric Name of The Athletic reported this in his article about the deadline, was that this was the first time the Bucks kind of just gauged the market because they know Giannis wants to play for a winner. And the Bucks haven't been a good team so far this season. So it got a little bit further than it has in the past. But ultimately, I think what both sides still want to happen is that Giannis remains in Milwaukee. And we made it step one. Past the trade deadline. Step one is complete. Giannis is still on the Milwaukee Bucks. Now we see what the rest of the season has, what the summer holds for this team. And then if he does put pen to paper for that extension come October. And that's when I will personally do my victory lap.
Yes.
When that extension comes, I'm always pretty cool, pretty even keeled. But if that comes, I will be insufferable for at least 2 days. I'm already going to say it. At least 2 days.
I'm right there with you. And I mean, we cannot ignore the elephant in the room. And I think a few of our live viewers with us here have already pointed this out in the comments. But Camille, just as we were getting set to launch this bad boy, Giannis Antetokounmpo was very active on social media, on Instagram. And like I told you, look, big fella, don't toy with my emotions like this. I don't know how much of it I can take, but do you have the Instagram post up in front of you?
Oh yeah, I do. He also just posted this on Twitter as well about 5 minutes ago. It is the famous scene from Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is saying, "I'm not leaving," with some more colorful language.
There's a word missing there.
Not leaving, okay? With the caption that legends don't chase, they attract. And that is a bar. I don't know where he got that particular bar from, but that is a bar. The Bucks retweeted that message saying straight from the source. The Bucks got their little petty out as well by making a little breaking report news post of their own saying that conversations have started about Sham's future and discussing whether the ESPN senior NBA insiders best fit is staying on Giannis's all-star celebrity team or elsewhere. I'm here for the petty. I love the energy right now. And again, I'm feeling good about this because I was anxious going into this trade deadline, but seeing Giannis is still here, the summer again will tell us a lot. But seeing Giannis's comments now, seeing the Bucks kind of co-sign that, it feels like they are on the same path forward of trying to figure this out here, which brings me joy.
So now the immediate question becomes, okay, what do you do with the rest of the season? Like, if I am to take this at face value, it would seem to indicate there has been some communication and corroboration between the franchise, the front office, and your franchise player to say, this is our plan. And plan may not have been said definitively, but at the very least, it was heavily implied, hinted at, and danced around in his communication with Eric the other night. So if I see something like this, this is our plan. Mm-hmm. This is how we think we can pull ourselves out of this. And this was, in fact, the gap year. And this was the 1 year where we take a bit of a step backward, but we have more things to work with this summer. We have the benefit of we are not up against the cap. We're not up against any of the aprons. We don't have to worry about the tax. We dodged that bullet. I mean, yes, you have some dead cap that you're paying, but that doesn't put the Bucks in a precarious spot this summer. And, oh, by the way, as we saw Bobby Marks point out too, like, hey, there's a lot of teams that have limited assets but more become available over the summer. Yeah. Fair to mention the Bucks are one of those teams as well that goes from 1 to 3, potentially 4 picks that you could at least include a portion of this summer and deal. So am I naive and crazy to take it as, okay, there's been communication and there's a plan and this is what we're doing? So now how do you handle the rest of the season? if that's the case, and now it is, we have TVs on in the background, it has made its way to ESPN this social media post. But if that's the case, how do you treat the rest of the season, Camille? Because Giannis himself indicated to Eric and The Athletic, I'm not just shutting it down. The plan isn't, okay, if you're not going to trade me, I'm not playing, or vice versa.
Yeah, it seems like he's planning to play, which puts all of like the tank command ideas and whatnot a little like, well, how does that happen if Giannis is playing? I'm curious to see that when he does return, if he's under a stronger minutes restriction or if he's still under that 30-minute per game minute restriction. And that's the way they try to massage it, by living in both worlds of, we know ultimately our best bet would probably be to try to get the best draft pick that we possibly can in a loaded draft, or we play and we try to push to the playoffs. Because in the article from Eric at The Athletic, he was very clear, like, when Giannis comes back, the plan and the goal is still to try to push for postseason, which for me was like, okay, that's an interesting take on it. And it fits the persona of Giannis. We know he is somebody who does not like to quit. He does not like to tank. My personal opinion was that this would be the one year where it's like, hey, just let's take our time in getting you back onto the court, knowing that we have you going forward. If you're on board, let's just try to help us help you in this situation. And let's just kind of walk that back. But it doesn't seem like that's the plan. So I'm curious if you can live between those two worlds, or if it's just like, hey, whatever the draft pick happens to be for the 2026 draft, that is what it is. Ultimately, we're going to look to cash these in to bring someone else in anyway. So it is what it is at this point. So given the trade deadline that they had, with not really making any major moves, and disappointingly enough, as I know we'll discuss, not getting back any assets, it just seems like you kind of play this year out to see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no to the not getting back any assets. I don't want to overhype the trade that the Bucks were a part of, but that is your asset that you got. And we haven't even gotten to it yet. We will get to that coming up on the show. But Ousmane Dieng, that's the asset. He's a 22-year-old. He was the number 11 pick in the 2022 draft. He was, ironically enough, taken one spot in front of his former teammate, Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. But there is certainly talent there. If you just look at the numbers and the box scores and the back of the basketball card stat, you're not blown away. You're not impressed by Ousmane Dieng. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Bucks just got a young all-star, but who knows? This is the type of move I myself, you, a handful of us called for. Look, I don't think the Bucks are going to trade Giannis. I hope they don't trade Giannis at the deadline, nor do I think they should. But what I do think they should do is some type of asset accumulation, because of the fact that they are not a tax team. They are not up against the first apron, the second apron, any of that. They can take back more money in trades, and they have room to spare. You should be a harbor for more money and say, look, we'll give up. We got a lot of 1+1s and expiring deals. We'll give those up and we'll take back money. We'll take back years on contracts, but it either has to be a young player that we think we can develop into something that you don't have room for, and or it has to have draft picks attached to it. They only made one of those moves. I was hoping to see more than that, but they did make one of those. So Ousmane Dieng is that one that they made that reportedly is coming in here to the Bucks. So who knows when we'll see him make his debut.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. And FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. The Lakers got an impressive win over the 76ers last night, but Luka Doncic left the game with an injury that has him in question for LA's next game. The Kamenetsky brothers with Locked On Lakers go over everything from the victory.
they got a really impressive 119-115 win over a Sixers team that has played well with both Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey available.
And let's not forget VJ Edgecombe, because there were some plays in this game where that kid was fantastic.
He's going to be so good.
You and I were texting during the game, and I said that while I'm not enough of a basketball historian to truly say this with any authority, if somebody that I considered a basketball authority, or at least somebody more of an expert than me, said that Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe is the fastest starting backcourt in NBA history, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right.
I buy it. Those guys get up and down the floor.
It's funny when you were saying that the Lakers were playing like a team that had been distracted or preoccupied, or maybe just getting through the emotional whirlwind of the trade deadline. And we've covered the Lakers, we've covered the NBA, different sports for a long time. And the deadline in any sports, particularly the NBA, which can be really active, it is nervous time for a lot of players, even players who've been around for a long time. I remember one of the years where Rondo was with the Lakers, and Rajon Rondo was a pretty been there, done that guy in the NBA. He admitted one of those years, like, yeah, I was concerned. I thought there was a possibility I could get traded. But what's funny is in the first half, the two guys on the Lakers, Luka Doncic and LeBron James, who knew more than anybody damn well I'm not getting traded. Like the two guys.
They were terrible.
They spent the entire trade deadline going, I don't know who's going to be on this team afternoon Pacific, February 5th, but I'm damn sure I will be. Those two guys were struggling mightily. Like, we'll get into Luka's injury, which happened in the first half. He didn't finish it, but the first half of the game, Luka and LeBron had a combined 14 points on 4 of 18 shooting with 9 combined turnovers. The first quarter of this game in particular was possibly the worst quarter Luka and LeBron have ever played together. And I think it was definitely the worst first quarter, period, because that is typically Luka-palooza when Luka just goes off. They both were just struggling, turning the ball over. I think Luka was getting unhappy with some non-calls. LeBron, to his credit, fourth quarter played much better, but a lot of this game was a struggle. Luka did not play in the
LeBron, to me, and tell me if you disagree, because the other half of this was not just the deadline, but it's also, I think, the first game back after a long road trip is often a challenging one.
Yeah.
LeBron looked like a 41-year-old guy who'd been on a lot of airplanes over the last couple of weeks. It took him a little while to get going. We've mentioned it's not that LeBron can't turn it up. It's not that he can't have really good moments or really good games.
And he turned it up in the fourth quarter of this game.
He did, absolutely. His floor as a player now is just significantly lower than it used to be. Like, you get more possibility of quarters, halves, even games where it's just like, wow, that's a really bad LeBron or low output LeBron game. But he was able to come back, and, like, to their credit, look, they got a little lucky. The Sixers missed. The Lakers turned it over, I think 7 or 8 times in the first quarter. The Sixers were almost entirely unable to take advantage of it because they could not shoot to save their lives. They would get up. They got up 6, 8, 12 a couple times, but they had the opportunity. If they were playing better, shooting better, they could have been up by 20, 25 in this game, and they weren't. And the Lakers just stayed persistent before Luka got hurt, and especially after Luka got hurt. It looked like a hamstring injury. Lakers call it lower leg soreness.
JJ said afterwards that it was hamstring that felt sore. He said, we don't know enough yet to know whether or not it's an injury versus soreness. There really are no details beyond that. I think they're trying to remain optimistic that it isn't anything bigger than that.
Right. And he walked off the floor, clearly annoyed, clearly in pain, but wasn't, like Peyton Watson, for example, He left the game Wednesday, I believe it was, in the fourth quarter of Denver's game in New York, and was holding the hamstring the whole time, clearly limping on his way off the floor. He's going to be out for probably a month to 6 weeks. So like you can see a little bit of a difference just in terms of how each guy handled it. That's not a medical evaluation, but we'll see. Everybody's got their fingers crossed. The way the Lakers, I mentioned this in the open, the way the Lakers came back in this game and then took a lead and then kept a lead. It starts, and we can start here, with Austin Reeves, who was reminding everybody the season that he was having before he had his own injury, between changing speeds to get to the rim and some incredible perimeter shot making. It was like, oh yeah, that guy was going to make an all-star team before he got hurt.
He, towards the top of the fourth quarter, went on essentially an 8-0 run himself that shifted the game from 93 to 87. He had back-to-back threes, followed by 2 free throws that put the game at 93-87. But keeping with just the nature of this game and how haywire it had been for the Lakers the entire time, while they were somehow staying in this game and at times keeping the score inexplicably tight. And you're like, I don't understand how they're doing this. The first of Austin's 2 threes in this sequence, Stu Lance actually yelled no, because the ball had been swinging around as the clock was running down. Maxi Kleber, who we'll talk about later, played terrific in this game, but he risked a shot clock violation swinging the ball one last time to Austin. Even though Maxi was open and the clock was down, he left Austin with like 0.4 seconds left, which I guess lucky number for the Lakers, but 0.4 left, and he was at least 4 feet behind the arc, and he buried this thing. And then the next three he made, I'm pretty sure it was Quentin Grimes, was all over him. But like that moment in and of itself was like, what are you doing? And Stu Lance going, no, after Maxi passed it. And they still managed to make it work.
So we'll talk. This is an important win. It's an important win, not just for keeping up with the Joneses in the Western Conference. Denver continues to sort of figure out how to get it done, and they're fighting injuries. Minnesota got a little bit better on trade deadline day. It doesn't get easier in the West. So, you need to keep winning to stay out of that play-in area. But this is an important win for how they got it, and sort of showing the team something about themselves, because this was a top to bottom contributions from everybody who played in this game.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. The Seahawks face off against the Patriots for the Super Bowl this weekend, looking to get revenge after falling to New England in the big game 11 years ago. Locked On Seahawks has one final preview before Sunday.
The Seahawks defense versus the Patriots offense. Just in general, how do you guys feel about that side of the ball? We don't have to go super deep into it since we kind of already talked about it on Tuesday, but I have 2 new analysts with me today. Let's first start with Nicky Manwari, since the news did come out today that he turned his ankle. To me, I'm taking this as not a huge deal. This is even less of a deal to me than the Sam Darnold oblique situation going into, was it the San Francisco game, or maybe it was even the LA game? I can't remember. But that turned out to be completely fine. Like I said, he had his best game probably as a pro in the NFC Championship game. This is one of those things where it's like you turn your ankle in practice and, no high ankle sprain. You're able to walk on it. It's just, it might be a little sore for a few days and you should be good to go. But especially with all the medicine that's available now, I wouldn't expect there to be much limited with Nicky Manwari, but maybe that's me being completely naive. Chris, from all the things that you've seen, do you view things in the same way with Nicky Manwari?
I'm just going to be honest with you. I refuse to look at it from any other angle because he's just so important to what they do that, if he can't go, I'm not saying that the Seahawks can't win the Super Bowl without him. It gets so much harder because we could have talked for about 6 hours on the post-game show about how good Manwari was against the Rams and really how good he's been all season long. But I do think that this is probably making mountains over molehills. Guys get, and the good news is it's not a high ankle sprain. The fact that they're just so confident and they can't just lie here. Like the punishment for lying in a situation like this would be massive. Talking about taking away draft picks type of potential punishment if you lie about what Nicky Manwari's actual injury is. So I am not even worried about Nicky Manwari.
I love that. Rob, you were one of the ones that were on the scale of less concerned to more concerned with the Sam Darnold oblique situation. I would say you were closer to the more concerned party. Are you still in that camp for this instance as well?
I am concerned. However, when the footage, was out there, the Nicky Manwari getting out of a car, going to the team hotel on Wednesday night, and then the footage of him during his press conference today, walking around without any type of a brace on his foot. That to me was very reassuring. It was very reassuring to me, having gone to the game and watching Sam Darnold warm up with his passes, and certainly once he threw that strike to JSN, where he had to kind of, really kind of contort his body and throw with his core rather than just his arm. It was like a big sigh of relief. Like, okay, you're going to be just fine. Right. I think it's just the nature of the Super Bowl buildup that, as Chris said, I mean, everything is going to be a mountain out of a molehill here. So I was a little bit skeptical about it. But again, to Chris's point, I mean, we're talking about a player who is almost invaluable to the way that the Seattle does things. And this is one game. It doesn't matter who looks better on tape anymore. It's one game. And I think that Mike Vrabel and certainly the offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, would do a terrific job of exploiting the Seahawks' lack of having Nicky Manwari out there. But again, I feel reassured that he is going to be okay, is going to be able to play the caliber of football that we've grown accustomed already for this dynamic rookie able to bring to the Seahawks.
Yeah, and as Chris pointed out, you guys both pointed out, no walking boot. And the fact that he spoke to the media today tells me a lot as well.
Sure.
I feel like if he was really hurt, I don't think there was ever a doubt that he was going to play. Hell, Cam Chancellor playing on a torn MCL that he did 2 days before the Super Bowl in 2015. So there would have taken a lot for Nicky Manwari to not play in this game. I think people are more just concerned about what it actually will do to his ability during the game. But even that, I'm less concerned now. They wouldn't have made him available to talk, and not even just made him available. It wasn't like he was already going to schedule to talk to the media and we just kind of left him there. They specifically moved him into this to talk about the injury. So that tells me that they're pretty confident that he's going to be okay. And that's what he said. That's what Mike McDonald said. I think similar to Sam Darnold, maybe even more so. I'm feeling pretty good about, where he's at right now. And let's be honest, no one's 100% at this time of the year. This is their 20th game this season. So that's crazy to me, to think that we're getting to 20 games in the NFL schedule. But anything else on that side of the ball before we kind of start to break down, the Seahawks offense versus the Patriots defense. Chris,
Yeah,
you had something.
I saw a stat and I immediately thought I've got to ask my buddy Rob Rang about this one. So I was taking a look at the numbers of Drake May against zone, and the Seahawks play zone, according to my buddy Denny Carter, the 5th highest rate. So he's 3rd in adjusted yards per attempt versus the zone. He's 1st in completion rate over expected versus the zone. And he only trailed Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford in passer rating versus the zone.
Good players.
Then in the against cover 6, the numbers aren't nearly as good. He is 19th in that stat expected completion percentage. And Rob, if you can correct me on this, the Seahawks play quite a bit of cover 6. And this is, to me, it says 2 things. Number one, the Patriots wide receivers are not great against beating man. And, in cover 6, you're going to see some man. And number 2, maybe that's a little bit more difficult of a coverage for a second-year quarterback to break down. What could the cover 6 do, and why could it be effective on Super Bowl Sunday?
I think it's a great question, Chris. I think you posed it beautifully. I hope that my answer is able to match, because I think it's one of the more fascinating aspects of this. Frankly, I think that Drake May is able to read the defenses fine. I do think when he is protected, and that is part of my answer here, is that I just don't know that, because cover 6 is a alignment that you don't see that often, because you have to have the dudes to be able to pull it off. That I just don't know that he has seen it quite as much. And I think that the fact that the Patriots have allowed as many sacks of Drake May as they have, then it just takes a little while for his receivers to get open. And one of the things that you said there, Chris, to me basically kind of answers itself, that the Patriots just don't have a lot of guys who have that elite lateral agility or straight line speed. They've got one receiver who is a legitimate 4-4 guy here recently. Stephon Diggs of course, was one of the great vertical route runners the NFL has seen over the last 15, 20 years or so, but he is not that same caliber of athlete. Now, still a terrific football player.
Oh, yeah.
But Demario Douglas, the wide receiver, typically runs number 4 for the Patriots. He's got that straight line speed. But other than that, they just don't have a lot of guys who are able to create significant separation. So it forces Drake May to throw the ball into harm's way an awful lot. And there are some talented defensive backs. Say what you will about the rest of the AFC East, who, of course, was the majority of the teams that the Patriots played. They do have some talented defensive backs, at least before the Jets trade away Sauce Gardner and all of those things. And so I think that that's part of it. And I do think that Seattle, to your point here, that Seattle does play some of that. Again, I just think that they have the guys to be able to play it. I mean, Devin Witherspoon, his ability to play inside and out, and certainly with the elite size speed combination that is Rick Woolen and Josh Jobe, just the technician of the bunch. I just think that Seattle, again, has arguably the best cornerback group that Drake May and the Patriots are going to face all year long, except for practice, because I think that that's a huge strength of the Patriots, and one that we're going to be breaking down here in a couple of minutes as well.
Yeah, I love that question, Chris. Thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Rob, you mentioned, let me just pry on that for just a second here. Rob, you mentioned that cover 6 is not something that teams pretty traditionally don't do a lot of. What makes it different than a regular, cover 4, cover 3 look that the teams aren't necessarily, and why do you have to, quote unquote, have the guys to do it versus, just having your willy-nilly average NFL defense be able to run it more often than not?
Well, I certainly am not going to be able to articulate this the way that, say, maybe a Hugh Millen or even Corbin with his coaching background. But basically, you're asking for an awful lot of, the ability to go back and forth between zone principles as well as man. And man's just difficult. I mean, there's only so many guys that have that lateral agility, the instincts, the speed to be able to play man, and then basically flip it, in the blink of an eye. The communication skills, the trust between teammates. I think that is, again, not only does Seattle have a lot of players who just have some pretty unique cover skills. You think about Seattle safeties. I mean, Nicky Minwar we've talked about before. I mean, he's obviously just an unbelievable athlete, but specifically Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. I mean, these were guys who played corner in college. Kobe Bryant did it at the Thorpe Award winning level. Opposite Sauce Gardner, since I mentioned him before. And, so he got not picked on, I suppose, but the ball was thrown his direction awful lot in college. And so because I think that Seattle is kind of uniquely talented in terms of man cover skills, even at their safety positions, I think that's one of the reasons why Seattle can pull it off, but not a lot of other teams throughout the NFL can.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 6 and 60. The Patriots go for ring number 7 Sunday night, but this would be the first without Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. Can rookie coach Mike Vrabel and second-year QB Drake May start a new era? Locked On Patriots previews the matchup.
We are here. The final deep dive preview for a football game in the 2025 season, even though on the calendar it is currently 2026. That's how it all works out, right? There's still a lot to unpack about this football game, and we're going to unpack most of it on this episode. Let me start here. I am not confident that the Pats are going to move the football consistently on offense this Sunday. The key is, will the Patriots be capable of making the most of the opportunities that will present themselves? Because let's not get this twisted. Seattle is a great defense. They are very talented, but they are not perfect. They are not flawless, and opportunities will show themselves on Sunday. Let's start with unlocking explosives. We talked about it earlier this week. The explosive plays in this game going to be just gigantic. Both offenses depend highly on explosive plays. If you look at Seattle defensively in the postseason, they are playing 40% man coverage on third downs. I think that opens the door for Drake May. That opens the door for him to extend plays. When the rush might be coming after him, he can extend, he can roll out, hopefully find a friend. I think with so much man coverage on third down, and maybe even more man coverage in the game than we might anticipate, that also opens the opportunity for Drake May to scramble. Now, whether or not Seattle will use a spy, we'll see. They haven't done a ton of that during this season. But on third down especially, I do believe May will have opportunities to extend drives. He's done that all postseason long. He's done that all season long. I think that will be there for him on Sunday. He has to escape the pressure, though. If we're going into this game on Sunday thinking there's going to be no pressure on Drake May, we are pretty much being delusional. We are lying to ourselves. There is going to be pressure on May. Will Campbell is going to get beat. Jared Wilson is likely going to get beat. Morgan Moses might get beat. We have to accept and embrace that idea and understand that if/when those guys do get beat by this pass rush, that May is able to escape that pressure and still make plays, make something out of nothing. Make sure you're not taking negative plays on Sunday. How about some designed runs? Wouldn't be surprised with May being a full participant at practice the last couple of days. Would not be surprised if Josh McDaniels ends up calling some designed runs out of his back pocket. Now, I do think that's more likely in the low red zone area, which we have seen. We saw it against the Bills. We've seen it a couple of other times. I think that's something we should be ready for. When we talk about the Patriots trying to make the most of their opportunities, we also have to talk about throwing the ball downfield. Again, this is the idea of the deep shots, but let's get specific here. Let's drill down. 2 or 3 deep shots in this game can change this game. I'm looking at Kayshon Boutte versus Josh Jobe. I believe that Kayshon Boutte is capable of making a play down the boundary against Josh Jobe. Josh Jobe has given up a couple of plays. He's given up on coverage a couple of times, given up a step or so. And I believe that Boutte has the ability to find himself open early in this game. All it takes is one. So let's keep a close eye on Kayshon Boutte versus Josh Jobe. When that matchup presents itself, I feel like May is going to take a shot. Let's also think about Pop Douglas and Kyle Williams against Devin Witherspoon in the slot. I've talked about this multiple times on multiple platforms. I will remind you again, Devin Witherspoon moves along the line of scrimmage, and when he's in the slot, he has had some struggles with speed. Ben Solak of ESPN wrote, the Rams put up 136 passing yards on Devin Witherspoon in the NFC Championship game. He is not big, and he is very aggressive downhill, so he can lose downfield leverage and struggle. Yes, he can. Let's get into the cover 6 conversation, right? Cover six. There's no doubt the numbers, you know them. Phil Perry has been talking about them. Evan Lazar, everybody's been talking about Drake May's struggles versus cover 6. There's no doubt he's had his struggles, but there are counters to the cover 6. There are things the Patriots can do offensively that will attack that coverage. Here are a few things that I saw while watching the Seahawks defense over the span of 3 games. When I watched the film earlier this week, here are some things that worked against the Seahawks defense. Bunch formations, trips to the right, to the left. Watch out for bunch formations. I'm interested to see if Josh McDaniels rolls out the 3-by-1. 3 receivers on one side and 1 receiver on the other. That has given Seattle some trouble. Vertical routes. How about a vertical clear out while you have routes underneath? That has also worked at times against this Seahawks defense. Hole shots. That's when you're trying to fit it between the cornerback and the safety, right? We've seen May make a number of those throws this year. He missed one to Pop against Denver, but he has been very good hitting those hole shots. He will have an opportunity to hit a hole shot in this game on Sunday. Something else that you will see. Cover 6, you can attack the flats. Stephon Diggs, quickly, right? Those quick routes he runs, 4 or 5 yards, boom, get it done. Pop Douglas, same thing. His quickness, his agility, he can get open in the flat. Ramondre Stevenson in the flat. So these are the types of things. And one last aspect of an offense that the Patriots can roll out there against the Seahawks defense is that cheat motion. I talked about it earlier in the week, but Tez Johnson, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, cheat motion. He did it at least a handful of times in that game against Seattle, and it worked. It worked a couple of times. It got Tez Johnson open. It got him open downfield. So keep an eye out for that. Bunch formations, vertical routes, clearing the underneath, hole shots towards the boundary, throws to the flats, and some of that cheat motion, that late motion right before the snap of the football. Seattle loves playing nickel defense, dime defense, and that begs the question, will the Patriots be able to run the football with 6 offensive linemen? If they are capable of running against the nickel and the dime, Seattle's going to have to react to that. Seattle's done a very good job of slowing down run game. That they're the best run defense in football while they are in their nickel and their dime. If the Patriots go out there with heavy personnel and do something that teams have not been capable of doing consistently, which is with their big personnel, run the football on Seattle. If they can do that, that opens up some things. Because if you're running with 6 offensive lineman looks, that means you can throw out of those looks. And Doug Farrar of SB Nation, he wrote this week about the Patriots passing out of 6 offensive lineman looks. He wrote, Drake May has the NFL's most touchdown passes and the NFL's highest passer rating with a minimum of 20 attempts when throwing out of 6 offensive lineman looks. It's not just a red zone thing. Think about Hunter Henry versus the Chargers in the wild card round. That touchdown, that nice pass over the top from May, that was a pass to Henry out of a 6 offensive lineman look. So early in this game, if the Patriots have 6 offensive linemen out there and they start to run the football with any success, that's a great sign because they will no doubt attack with their tight ends out of that 6 offensive lineman look. So those are some of the things we're looking for. That's how this Patriots offense can attack the Seahawks defense. There are going to be opportunities, and you got to make the most of them because it's not going to be easy. Some tight window throws, some perfect reads from May and his receivers, but there are opportunities against this Seattle defense.
That's all for today's Big Six in 60. If you follow basketball, football, or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has a half hour on the biggest news in the NFL, the NBA, or on campus going up every weekend just like we do here. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA, the Big 3 in 30 NFL, or the Big 3 in 30 college, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big Six in 60.